trying to do is to improvise melodies on the spot as I hear them. Today is March the 21st, 2024. Today is the day of my dad's birthday. So he was born, I think was it 1933? Urbane St. Clair Walden. In any case, what I'm doing is slowly trying to in rethinking the guitar, and we have for this the inventions. What I'm going to do in my mind, I haven't started yet, I'm going to fuel this by taking a close look at the Bach two-part inventions. He has a two-part and three-part inventions. This is a Johann Sebastian Bach. And that's my alarm to begin practicing. Goes off every morning. Although I've been up before that, so I don't wake to an alarm. I wake up when it's time for me to, when I've finished sleeping. And I got this idea as well in terms of practicing from new guitarist. I'll remember his name in a minute, but he actually uses a plectrum. And part of what he was saying in practicing scales, this week I'm focusing on the scale of the key of C. So he was saying that he practiced it like just practicing not scales in a linear fashion, but just knowing where the scale is at any place on the guitar. And in doing that, one of the things that he also does, and it sounds amazing when he's doing it live, but he then is able to weave a path through chords as part of improvisation, usually in a rubato kind of pre-trio, that is before the bass and drums come in. He will give a prelude, if you wish, like just amazing rendition. For that, I'd suggest you look at YouTube. I'll be seeing you in all the most familiar places. In fact, I think I want to add that to the repertoire just because he's opened that up so much for me. But he's using a plectrum, and part of what I'd like to do is to use both, because he opened my eyes to how, and he explains just how important and how beautiful the sound of a plectrum, and of course occasional use of the other fingers, can be. And in the meantime, Matteus Mancuso, I think his name is, a young Italian, is he? Opened my mind to how phenomenal, how virtuosic, how terrifying the lines can be, and the getting over the guitar can be if you're just using the fingers. So at the same time that somebody's showing us how to be so powerful with the plectrum, somebody else is showing us how important it is to reconsider the use of the fingers and thumb in terms of executing the right hand. The other technical thing that I'm working on is the use of the little finger for as not just an adjunct, vestigial kind of hanger-on, but an important melody leading with all the emphasis on tone, etc., that one would have, and to carry it even a step further, to talk about and develop a technique for using both the rest stroke, the free stroke, and also both sides of the nail. I think it's conceivable that I could use both sides of the nail with fingers going not just in unison, but the underside of this with the outer side of that. That's a technique that does not yet require, I can't think of a practical way to use it, but it certainly is in my kind of wish list. And remember that part of this is not just guitaristic, but it's also therapeutic. That is, some time ago, 2 years ago, I was challenged by TIA, which is a mini stroke, which left this whole right hand paralyzed. And the doctors told me, basically that I would never play guitar or piano again. And it was during COVID. So I I called my kids and told them that even if that is true, I'm not going to be in any way affected by that. I mean, not depressed by that, because I already have enough memories of my playing guitar. What I didn't have was any videos of my playing guitar. So all of that is interesting to me, and which is why part of the reason why I'm making this video now, so that if it does happen again, I can have this as motivation to my future self. If dementia, if I lose my marbles, if any of that goes up, this I think will help. Certainly there's no downside to watching these videos. So first of all, the choreography of the hands. And I became aware of this when I was doing this little cafe gig, Coffee and All That Jazz. That was the name of the place, Coffee and All That Jazz. And I was asking people who would come in there, especially a lot of students, master students, doctoral students, etc., would come in there to study and write. Very nice place, conducive to that, which not only sold coffee, but also sold very good lunches, renowned for their soups, etc. And it was in Roncesvalles, which is a hip area of town. And she said, Carl, what I really like to see is the movement of your hands on the guitar. I like to see how your fingers move on the guitar. And I thought to myself, damn, all that studying and theory and everything else, and what she's looking for is the aesthetic movement of my fingers on the guitar. And then I realized that if that is the case, then I should start to develop that. Mr. New Age Plectrum, I'll remember his name in a minute, the tip of the tongue phenomenon, is also an advocate of that. That is, he goes into this thing about circular motion, relaxing, playing while relaxed. So that's something as well that I'm going to be cognizant of. And in trying to be the best guitarist ever, which is just better than the guitarist I was the day before, yesterday, I'm going to incorporate that choreography in my playing. So for now, I've just begun practicing. I'm just doing this slowly by ear and trying to pick out melodies, and then once I do that, see if I can go from 2-part harmony to 3-part harmony. And of course, Bach has his 3-part inventions as well. But baby steps. This is C. Desafinado. So we know where all of the C's are and their kind of relationship to each other. Now, in terms of harmony, remember that harmony comes down and skip. the C scale would be, and at that stage we can harmonize these. That's C major, that's going to be B minor, it's actually B minor, it's actually B7th flat 5. So some people call it B half diminished, then A minor, then G7, then F major, then E minor, and then D. Now, in planning for First International St. Kitts Jazz Festival, I have to assume that I will be the only one performing and also the only one listening. So it's a festival of one for one. And with that in mind, I need to be able to say, have a festival where I'm the only performer. The closest person that I've seen that is actually the person who speaks to me most with that in mind is Joe Pass. And part of what he points out in terms of playing all of these things, Joe Pass didn't do a lot of that Bach-like things. He didn't. He had instances where he did it, but his main thing was the just outlining both chords and melody in a way that sounded, the metaphor is pianistic. That kind of technique and do everything slowly. The reason I'm doing it so very slow, or so I'm doing it very slowly, is so that I don't learn, I don't train my mind to make mistakes. Everything we try to do with intent. If I do make a mistake, I go over it and then go back and do it again and again. I don't start at the beginning and work up to the mistake. So that's kind of pedagogical. But what he told us in his book, The Joe Pass Method, is that these diminished chords can connect chromatically. So we're using the diminished chord to connect the chromatic. Well, this is C major, C sharp diminished, which is actually the same as D flat diminished, to D, to E flat diminished to E. And if we're doing things, especially for stuff like church, I like to again add the inner voices. So this is what we're going to struggle through, with the hope of getting it clean and with good tone and with a singing note. Now remember that these diminished repeat themselves every minor third, which is every 3 frets. Remember also that these diminished are really the same as or function as the minor 6th chord. Joe Pass does that in "You Are the Sunshine of My Life." So he states the melody, da da da, sunshine of my life. Now it comes here. He does it here. So instead of that, he goes. So from here. Then you can add some Joe Pass, everything. But let's go back to now to refocus the practicing on just this for about 5 minutes. And to hold the melody note so that it sounds as though there are two voices. Trying to do it through the ascending chord changes that we just afford to mention. Now leave that as one part of my practicing that has gone successfully. Remember now, what I'd like to do is to get better paying attention to the choreography as well, so that it's not just jazz guitar. What this actually is a form of dance as well. So we're incorporating kind of the aesthetics of dance, the aesthetics of motion, the aesthetics of communication. Barry Harris is always uses, like, I love this. He doesn't say, he in talking to his students, Barry Harris said, well, listen to what this guy said. He said, and then he said, in other words, there's no transducer. You don't translate what he's saying. This is what he said. And how does that make you feel? This is what he said. As opposed to this. He said, he did not say this. So right now, we're going to need, this will be all before work. I'm going to need to spend time now just getting this together. Which is 4-3-2-1, 4-3-2-1, which we will do until fail, but with no mistakes. While the thumb is a dampener, or is muffling this section of the guitar with these 5 strings so that they do not ring out. We're using free strokes here, where it's semi-classical in that although we do not try to bring the fingers right back up into the palm of the hand, but that's the trajectory, that's the motion, that they're going very natural, and the motion is coming from the knuckles. They're not coming from the fingers. There's no plucking, there's no clawing. It's all very Joe Pass, this right hand hardly ever moves. His advantage is that all of his fingers are almost the same length. Here it looks as though some of his fingers being chopped off. So aesthetically and practically, I have to literally reach for this, which means that my hand has to be adjusted so that whenever I do that, it does not hit the string, which is adjacent to it. The other thing that is going on here, which may not be obvious, is something I got from, what's his name? I think Chinese national doctor of the musical arts, who I met while door knocking. But anyway, I took some classical guitar lessons from me, and he emphasized the planting of the hand before the stroke, the planting of the fingers. So in other words, it's plant and then pluck, plant and then pluck until it becomes one motion. Start out by planting. This, he says, gives, and it's true, I've experienced this, gives a heightened sense of security because you know where you are instead of trying to attack it from the air like an eagle swooping for a little rabbit or something. Because trust me, the technique involved in trying to hit the string with a pure tone is way more difficult than hitting a piano, dropping into a piano to give its purest tone in the middle of the key. I know that because I've tried it, so I can tell you the difficulty for me. This is way more difficult. Guitar is way more difficult than playing the piano because the margin for error is just so great. I mean, you have one little piece of wire here, or catgut, if you're in the 1600s or whenever. And you have a fingernail or fingertip that's trying to make contact with it. So for the next little while now, it's 4-3, as loudly as possible, as slowly as possible, and then as quickly as possible. But building up the speed so that it's never never, ever fail. We build it up to the point where you think that you're going to fail and then stop. Because then the mind only remembers the successful things. This is called practicing with intent, as opposed to just sitting down and noodling the blues. This is really a way to accelerate practice, and it's just the best way. It's all what all the pros do. You know, everybody who's put in their 10,000 hours, and those who have not, this is the best way of doing it. It saves time. And as you know, I could die tonight, so let me use the time as judiciously and expeditiously as I can. So this is part one of practice. As I said, just before I leave this, let's try and see if we can introduce ourselves to three parts. And so in being intentional, trying to play a little etude every time I touch the guitar, that is, I think, all that we need to work on for today. Beautiful tone. I'm beginning to like that overdriven tone a lot more than just a plain, clean, almost antiseptic tone used by most. Choreography of the fingers, choreography of the hand. 2 and 3 part harmony, we think of that. Use of the fingers, use of the plectrum. Let us go through the plectrum just before we leave. So I use both up and down. And we practice that all up and down the neck. Including some aspects of sweep picking as well, but we'll do that in the second lesson. But for now, just plectrum, fingers. Remember, plectrum and fingers. Look at Paul Jackson in his work with especially his acoustic work with Kirk Whalum in Blessed Assurance. Very nice. Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine. That's an excellent exercise in this. Also, I think for chords, Andrew Segovia's transcriptions, 20 studies for guitar. That's Estudios for guitar. Study number 9, Estudio 9. That really helps chord playing, I think. because the exercise is written so that there's a rest after each chord. So we'll discuss that in a while, because remember that we're using the classical literature to help push and motivate our jazz skill, our improvisation. Both in classical, we can use it to like, who does fugues these days? What is a fugue? Do you know when was the last time we had a hit fugue? But anyway, using all of the musical repertoire, the history of music, we have AI now, so we can dig down and find out exactly what it is. But to out AI is basically what we're doing. So all of the information, we're going to use it, except we're going to use it mentally. That's it for lesson number 1 on this, the 21st day of March, 2024. There are no birthdays in heaven, but Dad, I remember you. Got to get that incorporated as well as cascades. I love the guitar. The guitar is my mistress.